Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents A Nice Place to Die by J. Woollcott, narrated by Alan Smyth. Chapter 1. Sunday, October 23rd. They reminded him of mourners at a funeral. Down where the body lay, officers searched the undergrowth, their hands clasped behind their backs and their heads bowed. Detective Sergeant Ryan McBride pulled on his gloves. He really should grab a Tyvek suit, or booties at least, but he'd run out of patience, couldn't be arsed to hang around any longer. Now that he was here, he wanted to get to the scene. The CSIs were clustered near the river and had locked the vans. God forbid in the middle of an area crawling with police they should leave the doors open. In Port Glenone Forest's windswept car park, that scent of an Irish autumn, damp leaves and wood smoke hung in the air, while crows, black and boisterous, flapped and cawed in the dark trees. Ryan's partner stood by one of the cars interviewing the man who had found the body. Tall and thin, D.S. Billy Lamont shivered in the cool air, his boyish face blotched red and his shoulders tight. The witness, a stocky man with a thatch of ginger hair, slumped sideways inside the vehicle's open back door, his feet touching the wet grass. A little black terrier jumped and yapped incessantly at his heels, aware perhaps of its owner's distress. Ryan headed over to the burly constable manning the entrance and signed the crime log. "Here," the officer said, and, reaching behind him, produced a pair of booties. "Cheers." Ryan nodded his thanks as he passed around the tape. The crime scene photographer, carrying a large bag and a couple of cameras, huffed up toward him. He was a strapping, florid-faced lad. "I already took shots of everything, boss, but if there's anything extra you want, let me know. I needed to shoot the video before the FMO sees her. He should be here any minute. I'm going to grab a coffee. Freezing my tits off here." Ryan flailed a little on the way down and cursed under his breath. Too much of a hurry, too keen. He glanced around, remembering. He'd walked along the banks of the River Bann years ago with a girl called Maggie. He'd told her that the river had its source on Slieve Muck in the Mourns, and they'd had a good laugh at that. Trust the Irish to name a mountain after muck. But there was nothing to laugh at now. An early mist drifted in fragments around a young woman's body. With her face twisted to the right and hidden by a tumble of copper hair, she looked like a careless sunbather. She wore a thick, cream-coloured sweater over black trousers. One of her red shoes had toppled away and lay abandoned by a mossy rock. It caught his eye, shiny leather, a shock of crimson in the weeds. He crouched on a protective metal grid the crime scene techs had set by the body. For the first time he hesitated. Caught something about her. What was it? The shade of her hair? He took out his pen and gently lifted a glossy, reddish-brown ringlet from her cheek. His heart skipped a beat. No, no. He stood quickly and inhaled cold morning air. The sudden blood rush made him lightheaded. He knew her. Oh, Christ. He'd slept with her. He glanced at the river. A pretty enough place, if a little gloomy when the sun went in. On the far bank, a willow tree's bare branches skimmed the water's surface like long, pale fingers. Further along to his left, two constables ran blue and white tape between the trees, while scenes of crime officers searched the undergrowth. The little dog's sharp barks echoed across the water as he exhaled, hunkered down again, and focused on her body. He studied her, the skin as white and textured as eggshell. A few faint freckles dotted the side of her nose. Half-open eyes. Thick brown eyelashes cast a soft shadow across her cheek. She had been pretty in life, beautiful, and more than that, he'd felt a connection to her, a vulnerability. The beginnings of a bruise crept around the other side of her face. She hadn't died right away, and that small detail bothered him. Someone had hit her hard, a brutal blow. Blood, viscous and matted, threaded her hair and had seeped into the ground at her head. What was her name? Kathy? Catherine? It had been about 6 months ago. He'd had too much to drink, and as far as he remembered, she hadn't told him much about herself. They had talked, connected right away. What should he do? Would they take him off the case because of a one-night stand? No way of knowing. They might. If they knew. A tall, dense grove of trees, shuddering in a blustery wind, hid this section of the path. Alone there with her, in the damp early morning, with the smell of mud and stagnant water, the rustle of beaten grass above him, and the cawing of the birds, he knew he couldn't have this investigation go to anyone else. Didn't even want to risk the possibility. The river slid by, unmoved by tragedy, dark, smooth, and silent under its own rising fog. He paused for a moment and thought about the situation, the implication, felt his throat close with anger and coughed to clear it. Christ, that's all he needed. Billy to see him choking up. Never hear the end of it. But my God, she'd been lovely. And he'd thought about her a lot after that night, even though things had turned out badly in the end. He wondered if she'd known she was dying, if she'd suffered. He hoped not. He remembered her laughing in the bar. She had small white teeth. The sun came and went, clouds racing across a pale sky. The forecast for once promised a cool, dry day. Although Belfast weather being famously capricious, they had a tarp and a tent ready. "Heads up!" one of the constables shouted as the pathologist's silver SUV pulled in. "It's McAllister." Ryan made his way back up. No point in courting trouble. He wasn't in the mood for a lecture now. That single bitter coffee he'd drunk earlier churned in his gut. At the top of the path, Ryan nodded to McAllister. Tall and silver-haired, he was the senior man and meticulous in everything he did. Some of the other detectives thought him fussy, and he had earned a nickname, Alice, because of it. Ryan didn't care about that. He liked him, liked his thoroughness. Not every pathologist came to the scene, but McAllister did when he could. He finished suiting up, snapped his gloves, and reached for his case. "You senior on this one, McBride?" He noted Ryan's lack of Tyvek with a raised eyebrow. "Yes, DC Lamont has the crime scene log, and DC Mora Dunn will accompany and take care of forms at the mortuary." "Good. Excellent. I appreciate procedure. Behave yourself down there." "Absolutely." Ryan glanced back to the distant figure on the grass, shook his head. McAllister paused for a moment, catching Ryan's hesitation, perhaps, and followed his gaze down toward the river. Beside the water's edge, eddies of yellow and red fallen leaves swirled. The morning sun chose this moment to reappear, and a shaft of light slid theatrically over the body and surrounding scene. The pathologist, normally a man of few words, cleared his throat. "Looks like a bad one." "Yes," Ryan said. "It's a bad one." Antrim Road Station had been through it all. Firebombings, sniper attacks, explosions. Now a barbed wire necklace decorated the old brick building, while out front a long stretch of corrugated iron displayed a smattering of profane and badly spelled graffiti, and was a real favourite with local dogs. Upstairs, the squad room was a soulless rectangle of desks and groaning office chairs. Ryan shifted in his seat and pulled up the latest missing persons report. Billy had wandered off in search of tea bags because he didn't like to pay for a cuppa in the cafeteria when he could boil a kettle and slap in a bit of milk for nothing. He frowned. None of the stats here matched the victim. Had she been in art? A consultant or something? God, what had she said? Yes, they'd talked about paintings. She'd mocked him gently about his taste for traditional Irish landscapes. But what did he know about art? What he liked, that was all. He'd had too much to drink that evening, and so had she. Both of them coming down from a bad breakup, or at least that's what he'd thought. Of course, he had also thought they had all night to talk, to get to know one another. There was no point telling anyone about his rendezvous with her. Come on, no point. One night, Christ's sake, that wouldn't affect his judgment. Yes, he'd liked her, but he wasn't even sure of her name. She'd been a little cagey, burned from her last relationship, and he'd no idea where she lived. No, wait, she'd said up the Malone Road, hadn't she? So what? He'd investigated and solved enough murders to know that there was nothing to be gained by his admission. Behind him, occasional wind gusts rattled the big south windows, finding cracks and whining through them. He could hear phones ringing and mumbled conversation. Somebody coughed, deep and wet. Ryan had just closed his eyes to concentrate when the squad room door banged open with a clatter and Billy hurried over. Strange. Billy never broke a sweat. What bit you? Ed Wiley is back. Billy nodded towards the far corner. Ryan pushed away from his desk. This morning had gone from bad to very bad. No, no, no. Billy nodded again, his lips in a thin line. Yes, yes, yes. Inspector Girvin appeared on the other side of the squad room. Briefing, be ready in 5. I want a rundown on current investigations. Make it succinct, I have a meeting to get to. Groans from the back. I know it's Sunday, but crime never sleeps or goes to church. He marched back to his office. Knows how to make an entrance, our boss, eh, Ryan? Billy riffled in his desk. Where's my festering pen? Ryan stood and threw a pencil over to Billy. As he did so, Ed Wiley slid onto the desk behind him. Wiley was tall, around Ryan's height, maybe a scant inch shorter, with the same dark hair and light skin. But Wiley had a drawn look to him, a bitter edge of discontent, sharp lines pulling each side of his mouth. Ryan remembered Billy mentioning that he and Wiley could have been cousins. He'd just mentioned it the once, though. Knew better after that. Well, well, McBride and Lamont, star detectives, God's gift to the PSNI, Wiley said with a smirk. What do you want, Wiley? Billy asked. Saying hello. I can do that, can't I? Wiley pulled a sheet of paper on Ryan's desk towards him with his index finger. Tried to read it. Ryan pulled the paper back and pushed by him. Easy there, Detective Sergeant McBride. Wiley emphasized the title, drawing it out. Ryan knew his rank pissed Wiley off. They had joined the force at the same time, and Wiley, for all his connections, he was the chief inspector's nephew, remained a detective constable, thinking it everyone's fault but his own. Girvin re-emerged from his office with a coat thrown over his shoulders. A big man, almost 6'3", he had wavy red hair and a ruddy complexion. But it was his eyes, a light, transparent blue that unnerved Ryan. Girvin marched over to the assembled group and straddled a chair. He glanced at the whiteboard behind him. Right, you lot. Give me a quick summary of your ongoing investigations. McBride, you have this morning's body. What do we know? At this stage, not too much. No identification, no missing persons report yet. Why was she even there? She was too dressed up for walking over muddy ground. Those shoes came to mind. Dr. McAllister will expedite the results. Promised a verbal soon. Forensics too. Foot traffic sparse in the area. It was early. Church still in. Not your usual victim, though. Shit. Why did he say that? Gervin raised his eyebrows. Not your usual victim? Do we have usual victims, McBride? A list somewhere we can refer to, because that would be so handy. Just an observation, sir. Sorry. Shit. The witness? Gervin carried on. Dog walker. We have his statement and he'll come in again for a formal. He left his car in the car park and walked along by the river. He met no one. The dog ran down and started yapping. He noticed a red shoe in the weeds first and then the body. Right. Hand your full report to Janice and I'll look at it when I get back. Gervin paused. In the corner there, Detective Constable Edward Wiley has joined our team from Musgrave. A couple of other boys are coming tomorrow. Nice to have more bodies on board. Wiley leapt up, cleared his throat. Inspector, I want to say how great it is to be here at Antrim Road. I'm looking forward to working with and learning from this team. Good to see someone appreciates the place, Garvin said. We'll get you sorted with a desk and computer. Talk to Janice. She'll take good care of you. New arrivals were usually greeted with a token round of applause and a few catcalls. This announcement, Ryan noticed, elicited silence, although someone at the back made a soft, retching sound. Wiley wasn't shy about rubbing in his connections. He'd alienated most of his fellow officers, especially since this chief inspector was a bit of a dick and all. Gervin indicated to the nearest DS to get on with his report. After the meeting, as the detectives and constables drifted back to their desks or outside for a smoke, DC Derek McGrath sidled over to Ryan and Billy. Derek was about 5'7", a wiry bicycling enthusiast, hyperactive and intense. His light brown hair, lightly gelled and spiky, shone under the fluorescent lights. He rubbed at the back of his neck where a tattoo peeked above his collar. He was one of the best researchers Ryan had ever worked with. That wanker, Wiley, what's he doing here? You heard the gov, Derek? Billy grinned. He transferred over from Musgrave. Billy, Ryan and Derek all stared at Gervin's empty office. Wiley leaned against the boss's door, holding court, while Janice giggled like a schoolgirl and swatted at him with a sheet of paper. Derek scowled. Bugger's back to his old tricks. Ryan shook his head. You're right, but never lets you forget he's connected, Billy said. Let's see how he copes with Gervin as a boss. There's a man who doesn't suffer fools, Ryan said, although he seemed to lap up the arse-kissing there. Okay, I'm away to get a couple of tea bags this time. Lack of caffeine always made Billy a bit edgy. Here, don't you take them from our kitchen, Derek warned him. I know how many we have up there. From the far side of the squad room, Wiley glanced over and saw them talking. He made a pistol with his hand and fired 3 shots, blowing the tip of his finger when he finished. Ah, Derek shook his head and twitched. Fucking bastard. Back at his desk, Ryan pushed away from his computer. Dr. McAllister, in an unusual burst of verbosity, had told him the victim had likely not been dead long. She had made an effort with her appearance. Her hair freshly washed and shining, a nice sweater, and those fancy red shoes. She was meeting someone, surely. Or going somewhere special? Ryan thought back to their evening together and remembered with a jolt that he'd given her his card. Oh, Christ. He'd even written his mobile number on the back. She hadn't called. Maybe she'd chucked it. It would be hard to explain if she still had it. Maybe he should have... No, it was too late now, too late to tell. And even if it wasn't, The phone interrupted his musing. He grabbed it. "McBride, can you come down here? Got a young woman wants to report a missing person." The front desk sergeant lowered his voice and spoke quietly into the phone. "Sounds like it might be related to the situation earlier today. Can you come down quick like?" Reception was empty. A few metal chairs leaned against the far wall, and a coffee table, canting to one side, held a diverse selection of books and magazines ranging from Reader's Digest to an old dandy Christmas annual. The sergeant had the desk phone pressed to his ear. He held up his finger and mouthed, "Toilet." Fair enough. Ryan nodded and walked back over to check out the dandy while he waited. A particularly good year. His mobile buzzed. "Billy. Do you want tea? I managed to scrounge a few bags and I don't want to waste one if you don't want any. Friggin' hen's teeth, these things. And Derek, he's standing up there guarding the blooming third-floor kitchen like a dog protecting a bone. Where are you?" "I'm downstairs at the desk. Someone's reported a missing person and Big John thinks it might be the..." Ryan stopped speaking and stared. The young woman from this morning, very much alive, stood in front of him. Chapter 2. Sunday, October 23rd. Ryan took a step back. What the hell? She spoke, and he missed the first few words. "To report her missing. It hasn't even been a day yet, but..." The woman glanced from Ryan to the desk sergeant. "It's about my twin sister, Kathleen Maguire. I'm probably overreacting." She hesitated again and looked at Ryan. She'd seen his reaction. "What's wrong?" "Something's wrong." She put a hand on the wall, then dropped into one of the chairs. "Let's go somewhere we can talk. What's your name?" Ryan held out his hand to her. He was probably shaking more than she was. "It's Rose Maguire. Will you tell me what's happened? She's been in an accident, hasn't she?" The desk sergeant glanced over. "McBride, why don't you take her to the main interview room? It's empty. I'll contact D.S. Lamont and see if D.S. Dunn's back yet." "Right. Thanks, Sarge." Ryan helped Rose Maguire to her feet, and they started slowly down the hall. Her sister, for God's sake. Kathleen. Right, Kathleen. He'd been close with the name. He felt himself tense up. The women were twins then, identical. Had she mentioned this? A twin? He didn't think so. Maybe she'd confided in her sister, told her about the detective she'd met. When they reached the interview room, he saw Maura hurrying towards them with Billy right behind her. Inside, Ryan introduced everyone. "I'm Detective Sergeant Ryan McBride, and these are my colleagues, Detective Sergeant Billy Lamont and Detective Constable Maura Dunn. Please, have a seat." He watched her. Had she recognized his name? He felt sweat prickle on his forehead. What a fool he was. He should have said something. Rose sat still while Ryan broke the news. He recognized in her the features he had seen a few hours ago. Her hair lively, if a little shorter than her sister's. A striking young woman for all her distress. What crazy, impossible situation had he let himself in for? Kathleen kept coming back to him in bits and pieces now. Snatches of memory from that evening. "Could you give us a moment or two?" With a subtle nod, Maura indicated the door. "Come on, Billy." Ryan headed out, and they left her alone to comfort Rose. Maybe Maura had picked up on Ryan's hesitation and was giving him a moment too. That wouldn't surprise him. She was sensitive like that. While he waited in the corridor with Billy, Ryan took a call from the coroner's office, glad of the distraction. Newry police had pulled back an unidentified body due for autopsy, and McAllister had slotted Kathleen Maguire in its place. She was going under the knife Monday evening. When the detectives returned, Rose was red-eyed but composed. She took them through her day, stopping only for an occasional catch of breath and a dab of tissue to her eyes. She had left early from Derry, heading for Port Stewart. "I just got home. I work abroad most of the time. We were to meet for lunch, but Kathleen didn't show. I waited almost an hour and tried to reach her over and over. Then I decided to go to her place in Belfast." Rose pulled another tissue free, roughly wiping her eyes. "When we spoke on the phone, I could tell something was wrong. I mean, she sounded anxious." "How long had she been living in Belfast?" Ryan asked. He knew it had to have been at least 6 months. "About 8 months. She used to live in Brighton," Rose answered. "She worked at a small gallery there for a while. Hated it." "What about family? Do you have other family here?" Billy asked. "Dad died in a car accident when we were about 10, and Mum got married again about 5 years later to our stepdad, Leonard. A year after that, Mum got cancer and passed away too. We'd just turned 17. Dad had brothers and sisters in Belfast, and we have cousins, but no one kept in touch. Dad was Protestant and Mum was Catholic. You know what that's like. I'll notify Leonard. He lives in Donegal now, has remarried. I have his number somewhere. He won't care much. We didn't get along." "Close friends? A boyfriend we can talk to?" Ryan asked. He could see her struggling to maintain composure. "No, I'm sorry. Not here, I don't think. But as I said, I've been working abroad, and lately our correspondence has been erratic." In the middle of this, and he acknowledged it had to be a nightmare, Ryan picked up on a definite restraint in Rose Maguire. He couldn't put his finger on it. Was she lying about something? They left the interview room with enough important information to get started, including the location of Kathleen's emergency door keys. Her full statement could wait. Maura accompanied Rose, ostensibly to help her get a room at the Europa Hotel, but mostly, Ryan suspected, to keep her company. Before they left, he arranged for Rose to formally ID her sister's body at 10 the next morning. Late afternoon gloom hung over the squad room. After finishing his report and making a few calls, Ryan shivered and pulled on his jacket. "I'm off to look at Kathleen's place," Ryan said to Billy. "Do you need to? It's getting late. Can't we go tomorrow? The CSIs will have sealed the door by now. No one will go in." He slid his crisps in Ryan's direction. "Want one?" He wiped his hands over a pile of papers littered with crumbs and salt sprinkles. "No, I'm good." For once, Billy's penchant for getting home to his family worked in Ryan's favour. This meant he could have a look around the flat in peace. "We have a lot on tomorrow. I want to go, check it out." "What's that?" Ryan pointed to the pile of papers lightly spotted with grease. "They're copies of those reports Maura wanted to discuss. The date rapes." "Right." Ryan scratched his chin, the faint itch of stubble annoying him. He felt a pull to Kathleen's flat, a thin wire of tension twisting in his gut. The chances of her keeping his card were small. Still, no harm in being careful. And something else, perhaps. He wanted to see where she had lived. How she had lived. Rose's appearance had shocked him. He needed to get away, to process this. "Maybe we can chat with Maura about that tomorrow. I want to get over to Kathleen's flat before it gets dark." "What do you think of the sister?" "She's a cool one, eh? She was upset, but not hysterical. You would think she'd be, I don't know, more of a mess?" Billy stopped speaking. Wiley had appeared. "What do you want, Wiley?" Ryan didn't have time for it, whatever it was. Keeping you two up to date. Thought I'd let you know I got the word.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?